So welcome guys to today's session. So we are going to topic 3, whereby we are going to talk about control flow and conditionals. So this is a topic whereby we are going to be doing some operations based on a decision that we make out of, say, the data that we have. All right. So we are going to be presented with some scenarios, and from these scenarios, we make decisions from that. All right. And not to forget that it will still be based on what we have been covering from our previous sessions. All right, so with me here, I have the VS Code open. I have created kind of a list of the things that we are going to be talking about. So basically the main topic here should be control flow and conditionals, right? And our first subtopic here will be comparison and relational operators, right? So we should have mentioned this when we were talking about the introduction to Python, but again, this becomes another good opportunity for us to go through these relational operators, all right? So when we talk about relational operators or comparison and relational operators, we are talking about a number of operators, and let me just mention them as we do some examples and see how this one should work, right? So one of the comparison operator we have equal to, right? We have equal to. Let me talk about equal to. Equal to. By equal to, we mean these two. Hope they are clear enough. We mean these two, right? So the equal to operator. This is an operator that is often used to try and compare to, let me just say, two data, right? And let's see an example. And for now, just allow me to slightly go back to the Python console. Maybe whatever we are doing, we can make use of the Python console first. Then we are going to go back to our VS Code, right? So we want to see the equal to operator in action, all right? So in here, I'll just type in Python 3 to access my Python console. So I would want to try, for instance, I have two numbers, all right? And I would want to check if these two numbers are equal. So should you be presented with a Python challenge and you are being told to check if two numbers are equal, the intention is not for you to use your eyes. I mean, not just checking and saying that these and these are equal otherwise. It's for you to use an operator, all right? And for this case, equal to operator. So for this case, let me just say 3. I want to test if 3 is equals to 3, all right? So let me just press enter and I get that it's actually true that 3 is equals to 3, right? Looks simple, right? So that is the equal to operator, and we can also check if it's equals to 9. So if for instance, whatever is on the right and whatever is on the left are equal, then we expect to have true, right? Alternatively, if whatever is on the right is not equals to whatever is on the left, then we expect to get false. All right. And again, we can also compare strings. Let me talk about done. The equal to operator equals to done, right? So we get a true. So in case I'm trying to compare it with Daniel, right? We get that these two are not equal, right? Then let me just do a test here. All right. I also want to test if we are able to tell, because in here we have a capital D and a small d here, right? And we see that these are not equal. All right. So that is the equal to operator. We are going to see the use cases once we now get to the conditionals. All right. So we can, for instance, you want, for instance, to check on, you are kind of having a game, and you set the winning number to say for a user to win, they must input 10, right? Then request them for, let me talk about the user, and they input something like enter winning number. All right. So okay, all right. So the winning number, I'm doing some guess game, and I input say 12, right? So in here, I should check if the win, that is the number we have set as the winning number, is equals to whatever the user entered. So in this case, the user entered 12, and remember, this is a string. So we shouldn't be comparing an integer and a string directly. So we should convert whatever we have here to integer. So we can try to check if that is equals to whatever the user gave us. All right, and we see that the user has not won. So that's just a very simple use case, and we are going to experience more with some more examples. All right, so that's one of the operators, and as mentioned, we called it equal to operator, and this is how it's represented. All right, so the other one is uh, not equal to. All right, and not equal to, we have the exclamation mark and an equal to sign. All right, so back to our Python console. So we want to check if 3 is not equals to 5. All right, so by the look of things, we expect that 3 is not equals to 5, so this statement should return true. All right, if you do that, it returns true, because again, 3 is not equals to 5. All right, and again, we can start with 5 and check if 5 is not equals to 3, right? And we see that it's actually true. Well, we are going to see use cases in some other examples. Again, we can also try using the string format. So not equals to, we mentioned the exclamation, and equals to sign, that way, right? And we see that that is not, what we have on the left is not equals to we have on the right. All right, so that's another operator. We have termed it as not equal to. All right, the other that operator that we need to look at is a greater than. All right, so greater than, this is how we represent a greater than, right? So there is a symbol for a greater than. So back to our terminal, or rather back to our Python console, we have 10 greater than 30, right? So is it true? Is it, so depending with the output, so in this case, that is not true. That's false. Again, we can talk about 100 greater than 30. We get that that is true. All right. So that's the use of the greater than operator. All right. So let's go through them this way. Then, as I mentioned, once we come to the conditionals, we are going to see them in action. All right. So the other operator, we have a less than. All right. So less than, we have something like that. All right. So we are kind of trying to say that whatever is, let me talk about 20, use the less than sign, and 10. All right. So we are kind of trying to say that whatever is on the left, that is 20, is less than whatever we have on our right. right? The question is that true or false, right? And we get false. All right. Right. Let me use that method to clear my screen. So let me do another example. 34 less than 200, right? That's true. So that's the less than operator, right? All right. So the other operator that we need to mention is we have greater than or equal to. All right. So greater than, we have already mentioned greater than here, or equal to. All right. So we use the greater than symbol and the equal to symbol, but in this case we are using one, not the two that we used here. All right. So let's come back here. So we are trying to check if, say, 10 is greater than or equals to 10. All right. So the cases under which we expect this to return true. So if the number on the left is greater than the number on the right. So that's one of the scenario. Again, if the number on the left is equals to the number on the right, we expect this statement to return true. All right. So that's true because 10 is equals to 10. All right. Then you have a line here. If we do that, we see that it's true because again, 10 is greater than 9. So it basically makes use of whatever, these two operators. So if it's greater, it returns true. If it's equals, it uses the equal sign and returns true. All right, so the other one, now that we mentioned greater than or equal to, we can as well have less than or equal to, which again we use this, the less than sign and the equal to symbol. Right, back to our Python console. So in here we are trying to check if whatever is on the left is less or equals to whatever is on the right. So if that's the case, we get an output of true. Otherwise, we get false. So for instance, 30 less or equals to 45, right? So that's true simply because 30 is less than 45. All right. So in another case, we can as well have 45 returning true simply because 45 is equals to 45. So this checks whichever is true, that is the less than sign or the equal to sign, it returns true. Otherwise, it will give us false. Right? For 5, is it less than 45? That's false. All right. So basically, for the comparison operators, we just first of all need to acknowledge whatever we have here. Just these operators. Once we are able to appreciate how to use them and where to use them and the expected output, then we are set to move to the other section of the conditionals. We are now going to look at conditionals. So this is where we are to make decisions based on a set of conditions. All right. So when it comes to the if statement, we have a scenario whereby we are presented with some data and we are supposed to subject it to some comparison. And from the output of the comparison, we make a decision. All right. So for instance, think of the age to vote, right? So specifically in Kenya, you can vote if you are at least 18 years of age and you have an ID. So let's put the idea about the ID aside. But should you be 18 years, then you are eligible for voting, right? So let me check about your age. Maybe I can be gracious enough to ask the user to give me their age. Enter your age. All right. So think of this as a simple system that is supposed to advise you if you are eligible for voting or otherwise. All right. So let me come in here and convert it to an integer. All right. So I want to use the if statement to advise this application user if they are eligible for voting or otherwise. So what I'll do, I'll have if, all right, if the age, that is the age that this user enters, is greater or, all right, is greater or equals to the voting age is 18 years, then we should allow them to vote, or we should let them know that you are eligible for voting. Or if IDs were usually given automatically once you hit the age of 18, then just advise them that your ID is ready to be picked. All right. So for this case, we are just going to tell them that, hey, you can vote. All right. So see, we have this age. We expect the user to enter this age, and we are checking if this user's age is greater or equals to 18, then let them know that they can vote. All right. So let me come here, clear my screen, then run my program here. All right. So enter your age. For instance, I'm 10 years old. By just the look of our simple application here, we are not eligible for voting. So what is the output? Let's see. All right, so we don't have an output for that because it's only supposed to print that I can vote if and only if I am at least 18 years old. That is, I'm 18 years and above. All right, so let me run my program. I'm 20 years old. All right, and there we go. I can vote for now. So that's the use of the if statement. All right, but we see we have a gap. We have a gap here because, again, if the user's age is not at least 18 years old, our system just goes silent. So we are not so sure if there is anything wrong with our system or it's our age, So the user will have so many questions once they input. Maybe you request them for their age and then you go silent on them. So at least you need to give them some response. We are going to see that shortly in one of what we have here. All right. So again, we can do that on integers. All right. Then we can also do that on the name. Right. So for instance, name. Let me for now just use a static name. And now use scheme. All right. So in here, let me just comment out what we have here, and we want to check. Maybe think of an authentication system that requires you to input your username and your password, or rather your email and password either, right? So in this case, we just want to confirm if whoever is coming in is the right user to be given access to the system, right? So we want to check if name. All right. So in this case, we have already used the greater or equals to sign here. Again, here we can make use of the equal sign. As I said, scenarios are the ones that will guide you on the operator that you need to use. So in this case, if name is equal to, all right, so probably the admin should be only the admin should be granted access to the system. So you can check if the name given is admin, then print access granted. All right, so if we execute our program here, all right, so we don't get anything because again the name given is Kim, or our user did input their name as Kim, but the user to be granted access is the admin. So we can have admin here, rather admin. If we run that program, we see that we now grant this user the access simply because the name they have used here is the same as that of the user who has the access to whatever we have here. If you are using a code editor, and for this case, I'm on VS Code, and I also believe other code editors have that feature. Immediately you have colon and press enter. It should be indented let me just call it one step from the margin. All right. In case you are using something like Notepad, which is not a recommended code editor, but still usable, you need to press tab once, because once you press on enter, it will move to the very edge. So you need to press on the tab key to push it one step inside. All right. But as long as you are on a code editor, it should automatically indent your code. Otherwise, for instance, if you come here and put it there, then that is wrong. Actually, it has already given you some warning here. So it has to be indented. I think for some simple statement, you might not need to move to the next line. Let me see if this one works. All right. So some of these simple statements, you might not need to move to the next line. But I think you would want your code to be readable, to be well presented. So be sure to move to the next line, unless it's just a very simple kind of a statement that you have. Otherwise, make sure you move to the next line to make your code readable. Right? So indentation should happen automatically once you have a colon. Otherwise, if you don't have the colon, let's see. So if you don't have the colon, then it will move to the very edge. And of course, should you try to execute this program, you get an error, right? Because it was expected that you will have a colon there. All right. So make sure to apply the right indentation. There's something else that we can do here. So we have seen that in case whatever is given here matches what we have here, then grant them access. Then you can also mimic all the operators that we have mentioned. For instance, we may want maybe to prevent the admin from accessing our system, right? So instead of maybe having an equal sign here, so we want to check if name is not equals to admin, then print access granted. Right? So we are kind of preventing the admin from accessing our system, but giving any other person access to our system. Right? So if we execute our program here, right? So we basically don't get any output because we were only supposed to grant access if the name is not equals to admin. Let me do admins. Execute our program here, and we see that we have given this name the access to our system. So it's as simple as that for the if statement. Just trying to compare a set value and another variable. If whatever operator that we use here passes, then the rest of the thing follows. Otherwise, our application will not show anything. All right. So the next section. So the next section, we are building the next section from the problem that we have identified. We don't want to go silent on our application users. We want to give them some feedback, whether the condition set favors them or otherwise. right? We have already seen some scenarios where our program just goes silent and doesn't respond anything to our users, all right? So that's where an else and if statement comes in, all right? So an else and if statement, this one will work hand in hand with the if statement, all right? So let us still use this example here, all right? So we want to check if the given name is for the admin. All right, let me show you something. All right, so we want to grant access to our system to the admin. All right, so here we are. We already have the if statement block. All right, and we want to see how to use the else and else, or rather, we want to see how to use else and if statement. All right, so let me first of all execute what we have here. We have the given name and we have the if statement, which will check if this user, let me just move back to the equal operator. So I want to check if this name is equal to admin and grant that user access. All right. So we grant that user access. So if this user is a different user, all right, our system goes silent on them. All right. So look, if for instance, you are not an admin, let us at least tell you something, so that you don't keep trying thinking that our program is not working. So I'm first going to make use of the else statement, right? So let me show you how an else statement works. All right, sorry. Okay, all right, so here we are. So when we want to have an else statement, we need to go back to the same line as the if statement, right? So we don't add it at the print statement. We go back to this section and talk about else. All right, we are going to print access denied. All right, so let's see. All right, so the access has been denied simply because this person is not an admin. So when and or rather, in what circumstance do we use the else statement? And when I talk about the else statement, I mean together with the if statement. We can't use the else statement without the if statement. So in this scenario, so in the scenario that we have given an illustration here, we expect two things to happen. So the user who comes in can either be an admin or not. All right. So when you have two scenarios or two outcomes that you expect, then else statement would be the best thing to use. All right. So as we have seen here, we have the elif. So this comes in when the number of outcomes is more than two. All right. So let me show you something here. Let me show you something, because again these are together. So let me just copy paste everything here and see how the elif statement works. So that's the else statement. We are still going to look at some more examples here, but let me also include the elif and see how this one goes. So in here, we expect, say, the admin, and I also want to think of another user. So for instance, if the name is admin, grant them access. Again, I'm also the my name is also allowed to access the system. All right. So our system expects to give access only to the admin and Daniel, and any other user should not be given the access. All right. So in this case, we can classify them as three outcomes. All right. Either I'm the admin, or the user is Daniel, whoever comes in, or any other. All right. So in this case, admin and Daniel should be granted the access. All right. Any other should not be granted the access. So in this case, we make use of the elif statement. All right. So let's see how to do it. So if name is equals to admin, grant access, then in here, I need to go back to the edge and talk about elif. All right, elif. So elif name is equals to Daniel. All right. Then we can also give them print access here. Else, if the user who comes in, it's not the admin and it's not Daniel, then just tell them that the access has been denied. All right. So let's run our program. Let's see how it goes. All right. So, all right. Let me access granted to. Let me just do something here to admin. Access granted to Daniel. All right, so admins is not, I mean, this is not equals to this, neither is it equals to Daniel. So it falls under the third block here. All right, so let me have it as admin. All right, let's see how our program behaves. All right, so our program has been granted, or rather the access has been granted to the admin. All right, let me have Daniel here, back here, run our program, and we see access has been granted to Daniel. So we mentioned if the number of outcomes, rather if the number of expected outcomes is more than 2, then that's where an elif statement comes in. All right. And we are not again restricted to using just one elif block, because again, we have admin Daniel. We would also want to grant access to the user named root. All right. And maybe also root1. All right. So we give access to the four users here and deny access to any other user. All right. So this is what will guide us on the number of elif blocks to include here. All right. So let me do that. Let me copy and paste what we have here. All right. So elif, this should be the root. Right, granted to root. Then this one should be root1. All right, and in here we check if at all it's root1. All right, so we are still expanding on the number of elif statements. All right, so that has been, access has been given to Daniel. Change this user, and remember this variable named user, I'm mimicking this to kind of look like this is the user input. All right. So it's not always that it has to be the user input. It can also be a set value like this, but mostly you experience this with dynamic data. Data that comes from the database, user input and all that. All right. But for now, we are using static data. All right. So let's see if, all right. So we see that access has been given to root, root1. Let's see. All right. See what we have. Let me add an S there. And we see that access has been denied. So we see that our program is able to make some decisions based on the output or the value in comparison here. All right. So we have been dealing with strings. All right. So let's now do the same else and else if statement, using probably some integers. All right, this might get messy at some point because maybe our program in here is not that complicated. All right. So we want to give access to any of these, and of course, at least make our code a little bit and not to have so many lines. So we have quite a number of ways to do this. All right. One of them we can let me form. I can form a list. We can form a list of users. All right. So in here, you can have admin, can have Daniel, and allow me to have root. All right. All right. Then I want to check if, remember we are working on if, else, and elif statement. Username, let me try to devise something here. Daniel, right? So I want to check if username in user, all right, print access granted. All right. Then after that, we need to, or rather, if you are not in that list, then we can talk about print access denied. All right. So we can have such a thing whereby we have already declared either a list or a tuple of some users in here. All right. Then this other username, this probably now comes from the user. Like you remember the input statement. So whatever the user enters here, we check if it's in the list of the allowed users. All right. And if it is, then we can simply type in access granted. All right. So let's try to execute this. Right. Access granted because we have Daniel. Let me add S, Daniels. All right. Try to execute it. We see that access has been denied. So if you check what we have here, at least there is a bit clean. This one was headed to being messy because again, if we continue having many users, then the elif statement will be so many. But in here, what becomes the only thing that becomes bigger is the list. There are many ways of achieving this. I'll also mention something else here. Actually, let me mention it at this stage so that should I forget, at least we have it. So this is one of the approach. We made use of if, elif, and the else statement, right? Then in here, we just simplified that and we have just been able to use the if and else statement, all right? So another approach, let me show you some other approach here, all right? So say if user is equals to uh, so let me have some small title here. So we want to make use of the all statement. All right. And there is another statement called and. All right. So we want to check if this user is admin. All right. So if the user is admin or okay, I need to define this user here. Admin, sorry. Admin. All right. So if this user is admin or user is Daniel. All right. I need to do something. So see what I mean? If this user is equals to admin or this user is equals to Daniel, I want to give this any of these access. Access granted. All right. Again, we said we don't want to go silent on the user. We need at least need to tell them if at all they are not any of what we have here. At least let them know. Access denied. All right. So this is the use of all statement. All right. So all right. So access has been granted because I'm the admin. All right. So if I add an S there, back here, all right, access has been denied. So again, if I am Daniel, all right, access has been denied because again, access has been granted because the user is Daniel. So this statement here returns true in case any of them is true. All right, so user is Daniel. Again, we can try to make it a little bit more interesting by having age. All right, so in here, let me check if the user is Daniel, and I want to make use of and age. Let me remove this other part. Age is greater or equals to 18, then let me see. All right, I don't need this. So we want to check if this person is Daniel and their age is at least 18 years old. That is, it's greater or equals to 18, then I grant them access. All right, so let me execute my program in here. Let me see. Right, it has been granted because these two conditions are met. Remember, we use and. Whenever and is used, all the conditions set must be met. When we use the or statement, at least one of the condition set must be met. But when we use and, all the conditions must be met. For instance, I am 10 years old. All right, let's tell our program to do a check, and we see that access has been denied. All right, so at least you have also seen the usage of and or. Let me just open my console here, right, whereby we were trying to kind of for instance, let me show you something. So this statement returns true, right? Then another statement returns false. All right, we can use these two statements whereby let me show you. I want us to update some note somewhere. So one of the statement returns true and another one returns false. All right, so let's see. All right, you see false. All right, let me come here and talk about something here. So we have true, true and true. We have true and false. All right, we have false and false. All right, we can also have false and true. All right, so we can have a scenario whereby we are comparing two scenarios, all right, whereby one returns true and the other one returns false. All right, so such a case, let me see. Let's make the notes from here. So basically in here, 10 is equals to 10, so that is true. Then in here, we can have 405 is not less than this, so I can have 450. So these two statements are true, right? So if I do that, I get a true. So we see that true and true returns true. All right, then true and false, as we have seen here, true, this is true and this is false, because again 45 is not less than 45, this is greater than 45. So we see true and false returns false. All right, then again in here we have false and false. All right, so false and false, 2 is greater than 10, that's false, right? And then I can have 3 greater than 10, so this is false and false, returns false. All right, then again false and true is the same as true and false, still returning false. All right, so that is the use of and. If you have a scenario where we have statements and they are the comparison operator here, we are making use of and, then this is the output. All right, so this simply means, let me slightly go back here. All right, that is what we have here. So if So once you compare these two and using the AND here, so it either returns true or false. All right. Then, in case it returns true, the statement here is executed. All right. If this statement returns false, then that's when it moves to the next block. All right. So that is when we use AND. That is checking if the first statement is true, then AND the second statement is true. So we expect this will be executed here. All right. Again, if the first statement is true, the second statement is false, then the full statement is false. So it will not be executed here. It will be executed by the else statement. And like that, I mean, all of them follows that rule. All right. Then let's see how all behaves. So back here. So let me copy what we have here, paste it here. But again, instead of having AND, I can simply have it as OR. All right, let me delete that for now. All right, so we want to see true, all true, true, all true. So we have this is true, and this is also true. All right, so let me just copy this, paste it here, but then instead of AND, we use OR. Right, so true or true returns true. All right, then again in here we have true or false. Let's see. So we have let me just edit this. So we have true or false. So this is true. 10 is equals to 10. All right, then this should be false. So I can simply, instead of having that, I have that. So we know this is true or false. All right, so in that case we go with true. So at least one of the statement must be true. Then false or false. 10 less than 100. Right, that's true. I mean, let me have 10 greater than 100 or 11 greater than 100. All right, so we see false or false will always be false. All right, and false or true should be true or false, should be true. But again, we can do a test here. All right, so I can simply just change that, and we see that that returns true. So just depending with what you use here, these rules apply. All right, so let us just do a final example so that we can call it a day. Okay, of using the if, elif, and else statement. Right, I'm sure we have all been to an exam room whereby there is that grading process. All right, so whereby you find that maybe an A is for one who has at least 80 marks, 80 and above. All right, a B is for somebody who has, of course, say 70 and above. All right, and say a C, somebody who has, let me just say 50 and above. All right, and anything else is a D. You know, that is 50 marks and below. All right, so we can try to use this to to create a simple program that will advise us. Once we give it the marks, it should advise us whether this person has an A, this person has a B, C, D, and all that. All right, so let's see. Let me have marks here. My marks, let me just start with some 50 marks. Right, so my system will check if marks. Right, so if marks, so we are talking about if marks is greater, all equals to 80. Then we should print scored an A. All right. Then we have Elif if max. So if max is greater or equals to 70. All right. Then we should print. Let me just print what we have here. We should print scored a B. All right. Then Elif we want to have max greater or equals to 50. All right. We tell this person you scored a C. Right. Then so basically anything else, like let me see if this works for us, because we need to subject our program to all these tests. So let me just talk about else and close that thing. I mean, let us just be gracious enough and tell that this person tried. All right, so let's see. Let me just start with 20 or 10. Subject our program to those tests. All right, I tried. That's okay. How about 40? My program, please tell me. All right, I still tried. How about a 50? I scored a C. Are we good? So basically, we are talking about 50 and above, right? So anything lower than 50, we see we tried, but in case I have 50, let me have 56. What did I score? Right? I scored a C. All right. Scored a C. All right. All right. Then let's see. Let's move closer to 70. Sorry. All right. Okay. I want to move close to, let me talk about 69. So 69 is not greater than 70, but it's basically greater than 59. So we expect a C. All right. Then let's move to 70 here. All right. We now move to B because again, we scored 70 and above. Then 80 or rather 79. Let me clear. Okay. Sorry. All right. So I scored a B as well. I am at 79. How about 80? Back here to my program and I see I scored an A. And again, basically anything above 80 should give me an A. Even if I scored 1,000, I'll still score an A. So just a challenge, because again, as part of hardening our application, we should at least ensure that we put a map so that we don't just accept any values here. Remember the way I told you, in case you're taking some input from the users whereby you expect them to input age, they give you an email. In such a case, such a program will crash. All right, we don't want that. So as we continue covering these topics, continue trying to visualize how to continue hardening your applications. All right, so I'll stop it at that point.